What a disappointing way for Nebraska to respond coming off the high of that Purdue win. It was a game that a lot of people did see coming, that a lot of people figured would be something of a step back or a letdown game after coming off of the high of that win against the number one ranked team. They played so well against Purdue, and it looked like they had possibly turned the corner. But I think what we're seeing throughout the Big Ten league play so far, and it was even mentioned on the broadcast, is teams are not that good or that are not that much better than other teams in the Big Ten to be able to win on the road. Right? If you're a quality team, if you're a really dominant team, you don't have to rely on that home crowd energy or on being in familiar surroundings. Right? Good teams, they can create their own energy and they can feed off of each other when on the road. And they almost, you hear players say it all the time, they almost enjoy silencing the crowd. But for this Nebraska team, when Tominaga gets going and he's interacting with the fans and the fans of the players, there's an energy, there's a buzz about it. And just too many times this year with this Nebraska team, like what we saw against Iowa, that buzz, that energy just completely isn't there. And then they try to play catch up. So, it started out pretty much as bad as it could have for Nebraska. 17-2 start. And it took until about 6-7 minutes into the first half itself for the second field goal to even be made. So Nebraska started off terribly, really low energy, and then they kind of clawed back into it. They kind of made it close. It was tied up at 50 at one point, and then from there, the avalanche that happened then afterward was really switching to the 2-3 zone. It was the first time any coach has ever deployed the 2-3 zone ever. Nebraska looked lost. They didn't know how to handle it. And it was really, with a team that has enough veteran players on it, in my opinion, enough playmakers, enough ball handlers, their inability to attack the 2-3 zone was kind of surprising and shocking, to be honest. And more on the 2-3 zone in a second, but really, it was looking like Nebraska was going to be able to take the lead and maybe even expand a nice lead. Like they were humming to start that second, going in, from the end of the first, going into that second half. But the Iowa defense, that switch really caused a drought for this Nebraska offense that it translated not only in terms of the scoreboard, obviously, but just the overall energy and that grit and the much needed game-winning plays that we have been used to seeing so many times this year. And so you have to credit Iowa. They've throughout Big Ten play have been known for switching up their defense, giving different looks, and today it really showed that Nebraska and Fred Hoiberg need to be better at making adjustments on the fly before it gets too out of hand too quick. But back to the 2-3 zone. When you have 2-3 zone, you really, just like they said on the broadcast, you want to attack the top of the paint. You want to get the ball in the high post from one of the forward positions or center positions so that the 2-3 zone has to collapse, and then you can kick it out to open players. But forget that happening. That obviously did not happen. they were just settling for really, really tough shots and far threes. Are they makeable by college players? Yes, of course, but it doesn't allow the offense to get in a rhythm. The rest of the team is stagnant, and there was not there's not enough off ball movement then or ball movement within the offensive structure, and it really killed the game in my opinion for Nebraska. And then on the defensive side, this was a team that came in defending the three, at least percentage wise, really well. But one of the strengths of this Iowa team was their willingness and ability to shoot threes. To shoot threes, and to kind of live and die by the three. And today they made their threes, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough where you would say, "Oh, this team was unbeatable tonight." And I mean that in the sense of Nebraska just didn't compete on either end to make it close. I think with a little better effort, with a better adjustment, even with I think it was 5 or 6 Iowa players in double digits, around 15 points, and 2 of them having career highs. Even with that, you still would have liked Nebraska to make it closer and have a better showing. Really, that's all that I think we would have asked with so many players having a good shooting performances, to just make it more competitive and to have a better showing. And that just flatly did not happen today. So from here, where do we go? We really need to see this Nebraska team have a good performance right out of the gate against Rutgers. The team needs to come out with energy, can't come out flat again. And we need to see that buzz that we see when they're playing at home. We need to see that when they play in New Jersey. One couple of highlights from today, though, wasn't all negative. Eli Rice and Josiah Alec really stepped up for this team in this first half and made it closer, made it better than what made it look better, at least, than maybe what the game should have been. I think so. Eli Rice, with his scoring production, and he did bring some energy for himself that unfortunately just wasn't able to translate to other players. To the other guards, I mean. But Josiah Alec, I think he had a sequence of 2 or 3 made dunks back to back to back. And he was one that gave a spark where you would have hoped that his teammates would have been able to feed off of that and be able to build off of that, but that just didn't happen. And then in the second half, I did think Juwan Gary kind of got himself going a little bit more, had a quiet first half, but really was doing well, attacking, and then being a pest on the offensive glass. So, easier said than done. I'm just sitting here. I'm just sitting here in my chair watching the game. But it would have been nice to see if that Juwan Gary had been able to show up in the first half too. Maybe Nebraska isn't nearly in the hole that they were to start the game. But just going forward on the perimeter defense, too many times where there were just too many. And this is I'm rambling a bit here on this, but this is what I mean by even with that really great shooting night by Iowa, there wasn't a feeling of, oh, this team is unstoppable. Why? Because Nebraska just gave up too many easy looks and too many easy buckets, especially on the perimeter and down low. Well, the guards for Nebraska, just too many times it just seemed like there were missed assignments, lack of communication, and just being late on rotations. And then that, and also and just in general, being beat too easily off of the ball. So those things, they aren't even, you can't even say, it's the little things that need to be fixed. Those are pretty big, monumental things. So if we're going to see this Nebraska team, they play well at home, good start. But they really need to win a couple games on the road here to close out this season for themselves. And it really will start for me with the perimeter players establishing a better perimeter presence, and not, breakdowns will happen, but to not have it be so easy where they're either uncontested looks by the guy driving the ball, or easy dishes that lead to uncontested dunks. So not too many positives to take from the night. Um, hopefully we see better performance, better effort from the Nebraska boys when they play Rutgers. I believe it's on Wednesday. In the meantime, go Big Red.